Page 16, questions 101 through 107. Question 101. A centrifugal compressor is in operation with suction pressure is 3 psig and the discharge is 10 psig. The atmospheric pressure is 14.7. What is the ratio closet to? 1.39. If the suction pressure of a centrifugal compressor is 3 psig, the discharge is 10 psig, and atmospheric pressure is 14.7, the ratio is closest to 1.39, which is calculated by adding atmospheric pressure to the discharge pressure to calculate absolute discharge pressure, then add atmospheric pressure to suction pressure to calculate absolute suction pressure, then divide absolute discharge pressure by absolute suction pressure, which here would be 24.7 divided by 17.7, about 1.39. Question 102. You are the engineer running the 2,000-ton, steam-driven turbine centrifugal refrigeration system. A refrigeration system supplies chilled water to a college campus with multiple buildings. The panel display on the refrigeration system indicates that the problem is water flow. What do you do? Check the condenser water pump and restart the refrigeration system. When the panel display on the refrigeration system indicates that the problem is water flow, check the condenser water pump and restart the refrigeration system. Question 103. Electrical current is measured in amperage. Electrical current is measured in amperage. Question 104. How would you put an additional pump online? Open suction valve, open discharge valve gradually. When putting an additional pump online, you would open the suction valve, then open the discharge valve gradually. Question 105. Of the following, the major advantage of a shell and coil condenser is: there is less dangers of developing leaks. A major advantage of a shell and coil condenser is less danger of developing leaks. Question 106. An engineer needs to vary the flow of refrigerant in a refrigeration system. Which operation in the flow of the system does not include? Solenoid valve. The solenoid valve turns refrigerant flow on and off, controlling the flow of refrigerant in the system. Question 107. Thermal bulb is attached to the suction pipe between the evaporator coil and the compressor by an insulated line. Assume that the machinery room is at 85 degrees Fahrenheit. Breakdown of the insulation results in: flood the evaporator. If insulation breaks down on the line attaching the thermal bulb to the suction pipe between the evaporator coil and the compressor, this will result in flooding the evaporator. Page 17, questions 108 through 114. Question 108. A chill water system uses refrigerant R134. A leak in the evaporator shell may result in: set off the refrigerant monitor alarm. A leak in the evaporator shell of a system using refrigerant R134 may set off the refrigerant monitor alarm. Question 109. What are steam ejectors used for on the surface condenser of a system with a turbine? To create a proper operating exhaust vacuum. Steam ejectors on the surface condenser of a system with a turbine are used to create a proper operating exhaust vacuum. Question 110. Water and moisture is serious problem in a refrigerant system. How to avoid? Proper evacuation at the charging of the system. The way to avoid water and moisture in a refrigerant system is proper evacuation at the charging of the system. Question 111. The most important requirements for a good evaporator is that it must have enough cooling surface to absorb the required heat. A good evaporator must have enough cooling surface to absorb the required amount of heat from this system. Question 112. While on duty, a refrigeration engineer noticed that the suction line to the compressor and part of the compressor itself is frosted. Of the following, the most likely reason for this condition would be: there is not enough refrigerant in the system. If the suction line to the compressor and part of the compressor itself are frosted, Most likely the reason would be that there is not enough refrigerant in the system. Question 113. While doing a routine line inspection, the engineer notices the bulb of the TXV on the floor. The refrigerant engineer should attach the bulb at the outlet end of the coil. If the bulb of the TXV comes off, it should be reattached at the outlet end of the coil. Question 114. To convert water at 32 degrees Fahrenheit to ice at the same temperature, a refrigeration system must remove the latent heat of fusion. The latent heat of fusion must be removed for 32-degree water to become ice in a refrigeration system. Page 18, questions 115 through 121. Question 115. The use of oil in the refrigeration machine is to reduce wear and friction in the compressor parts. Oil is used in refrigeration machines to reduce wear and friction in the compressor parts. Question 116. The following is a desirable property in refrigeration. High latent heat. High latent heat is a desirable property in a refrigeration system. Latent heat is the heat required to change states of matter, such as liquid to vapor, without changing temperature. Question 117. The cooling medium for an evaporative condenser is air and water. Air and water is the cooling medium for an evaporative condenser. Question 118. The ratio of the actual pressure of water vapor in the atmosphere to the saturated pressure of given temperature is relative humidity. Relative humidity is the ratio of the actual pressure of water vapor in the atmosphere to the saturated pressure of a given temperature. Question 119. The only refrigerant temperature chart available to a refrigerant engineer lists the temperature as degrees Celsius. If the chart indicates a Celsius temperature of 4 degrees, equivalent to Fahrenheit is 39.2 degrees. A temperature of 4 degrees Celsius is equivalent to 39.2 degrees Fahrenheit, which you can calculate by multiplying the Celsius temperature by 9/5, then adding 32. Question 120. A refrigerant engineer was instructed to charge a 60-ton plant with R134A refrigerant. The refrigerant engineer will most likely find the charging valve on the low-pressure side of the system. The charging valve for adding refrigerant is typically on the low-pressure side of the system. Question 121. A refrigerant engineer verifies that a chilled water pump is cavitating. Of the following, the most likely cause for this condition is water leaks through the mechanical seals. Water leaks through the mechanical seals is the most likely cause if you see that the chilled water pump is cavitating. Page 19, questions 122 through 128. Question 122. There is a decrease in the efficiency of a reciprocating compressor. This mostly likely caused by leaking suction valve. A leaking suction valve can cause a decrease in the efficiency of a reciprocating compressor and is the most likely cause if you see that happen. Question 123. The suction and discharge valve of the reciprocating compressor are mounted as follows. Discharge valve on top of the valve plate and suction valve below. On a reciprocating compressor, the suction and discharge valve are mounted with the discharge valve on top of the valve plate and the suction valve below. Question 124. You are the engineer running a 2,000-ton, steam-driven turbine centrifugal refrigeration system. A refrigeration system supplies chilled water to a college campus with multiple buildings. While making your rounds, you notice that the discharge pressure of your condenser water pumps is significantly lower than the normal. Which following action would you avoid taking? Put on an additional surface condenser pump and lower the chilled water set point. In this scenario, you notice the discharge pressure of the condenser pump is significantly lower than normal. You would try to avoid putting on an additional surface condenser pump and lowering the chilled water set point. Question 125. A water pump is discharged against head 92 feet of water. This is approximately to a pressure of 40 pounds per square inch. The pressure of the water pump discharge against head 92 feet of water is about 40 pounds per square inch. Question 126. Which one of the following will connect to the middle port on a gauge manifold? Vacuum pump. A vacuum pump connects to the middle port on a gauge manifold. Question 127. The most important reason for installing a muffler in reciprocating refrigerant machine is to contain the compressor pulsation noise. Containing the compressor pulsation noise is the most important reason for installing a muffler in reciprocating refrigerant machine. Question 128. Of the following, the statement that most accurately characterizes a hermetic compressor is that it will have both the compressor and motor enclosed as gas-tight housing. A hermetic compressor will have both the compressor and motor enclosed as gas-tight housing. Page 20, questions 129 through 135. Question 129. In the picture, the valve is in what position? The valve is cracked open. In the picture referenced in question 129, the valve's position is cracked open. Question 130. What is the order of components of the liquid line of a reciprocating system from the condenser to the TEV? King valve, filter dryer, solenoid valve, sight glass. That order is king valve, filter dryer, solenoid valve, sight glass. The components of the liquid line of a reciprocating system going from the condenser to the TEV are in the order king valve, filter dryer, solenoid valve, sight glass. Question 131. A high side float is used to maintain constant level of refrigerant in the evaporator. A high side float maintains the level of refrigerant in the evaporator at a constant level. Question 132. Picture of a pump. 90-degree reducing elbow, pump suction, pump casing, pump discharge, check valve. The parts of a pump, as seen in a picture of a pump for question 132 are 90-degree reducing elbow, pump suction, pump casing, pump discharge, check valve. Question 133. Picture of a compressor. Oil charging port allows for the addition and removal of oil from the compressor. The part of a compressor pictured in question 133 is an oil charging port, which allows for both addition and removal of oil from the compressor. Question 134. A facility leak greater than has failed to maintain water treatment to a refrigerant system. Increase in the condenser pressure. Failing to maintain water treatment to a refrigerant system would see an increase in the condenser pressure. Question 135. Which of these compressors is not a positive displacement type compressor? Centrifugal. A centrifugal compressor is not a positive displacement type compressor, whereas rotary, screw, and reciprocating compressors are positive displacement type compressors.